Welcome back, family, to Spiritually Speaking, formerly known as the Truth Be Told podcast. I had to switch it up on you guys, but I'm back with another episode. So, we're going to be covering the same deep topics, just with another name and title, okay? So, let's dive straight into this message. On the last episode, I briefly discussed how depression could be an indication of a spiritual suppression. We kind of talked about mental illnesses, but I wanted to dive deeper into the topic, specifically the spiritual nature behind mental illnesses. Okay, so let me just issue that disclaimer now. I am not a licensed professional, nor am I attempting to treat nor diagnose anyone. These are all my opinions, and just be aware that some of the information that I will be covering today can be quite triggering or a controversial subject or type of opinion. So just buckle up, Buttercup, because you're in for a wild ride. So if you haven't done so already, grab your favorite beverage and let's tap in. Let's be clear, this message is not intended for anyone to go out and go against whatever your medical treatment team has advised for you. I always advise you to speak with your physician, your mental health specialist team, or whoever you may be under the treatment of. This episode and episodes like it are just to spark conversation around the spiritual nature of things. So let's dive straight into it. We talked about depression, as I mentioned, being a spiritual suppression. If you think about depression for a moment, just think about how dissatisfied one may feel. Now, what is the difference between clinical depression and, let's say, episodic or periodic depression, where it kind of goes with the ebbs and flows of life, right? In those situations, we come to understand that it is a circumstantial situation, right? So many times people get depressed in their lives. You may experience certain levels of depression. What I don't want to do is minimize anyone's diagnoses and make it as if it does not exist or it is something minimal. Okay, I have worked in the mental health field for a number of years, so I do understand the impact that mental health has on all of our lives, right? That's another reason I wanted to come on and have this deeper conversation, because I think there are a lot of components that are missing. There's a lot of nuance that we don't discuss when we're talking about mental health, specifically in the Black community, because it's very taboo to talk about it. So let's get into it. We talk about everything else. Why don't we talk about what's really on our minds, what's really on our heart, what's really on our spirit, okay? Certain circumstances and situations will have us feeling a type of way. Listen, if my money ain't right, my relationship ain't going well, I'm having issues at work with children, relationships, friends, you name it, community issues. We deal with different things on so many different levels and scales. There's no wonder that we aren't all bogged down by depression. Let's be real. The food is fake. Reality TV is fake. Everything we see around us, we can barely trust what's on the news. We can barely trust in the leadership. Everybody's got a scam and a scheme going on. It is no wonder that many of us succumb to the ills of life, right? But the difference is knowing the level of dissatisfaction you are in. It is my personal opinion that the different varying degrees of depression are varying degrees of dissatisfaction. So when we talk about clinical depression, we're talking about someone who is clinically depressed. It is affecting every aspect of their life. And what I mentioned in the last episode was oftentimes we try to treat the symptom, the depression, of the bigger problem. So in my opinion, I believe that we should be focusing more on the bigger picture. What is the bigger problem? What is the specific level of dissatisfaction? So when we find someone who may be diagnosed as clinically depressed, to me that indicates dissatisfaction on a multitude of levels, okay? So you are finding it difficult in your home life, work life, relationships. You are just having a difficult time. So what does this indicate on a spiritual level? Well, spiritually speaking, this is an indication that you are no longer aligned with the environments, people, places, and things that you are tethering yourself to. For instance, you find yourself very upset at work, you have a difficult time with the people you work with, or just the overall task and daily duties that you're expected to perform within a certain job field or arena, right? Even in career paths that you've studied and worked hard for, you can get into those spaces and find that you're not really aligned there. Oftentimes, we do so much work trying to get to the bag, trying to get to some money. We put ourselves in situations and circumstances surrounded by certain people that we normally wouldn't align ourselves with, or who we aren't supposed to be aligned with at all, yet because we want money, because we want certain tangible items, we are doing things just to meet that end goal when the end goal should be spiritual fulfillment. So, again, it's important to assess the level of dissatisfaction you are in. If you are dissatisfied with your job, dissatisfied with your home, dissatisfied with your life overall, your connections with people, perhaps those environments are not inspiring growth. And at the end of the day, what we must come to understand is the spirit always wants to grow. It wants you, it needs you to grow to your highest version of self. And you can't do that as long as you're staying tethered to and tied to certain situations, circumstances, and people who do not allow you to be your greatest version of self. Again, you are being spiritually suppressed, whether by yourself, unintentionally or intentionally. Most of it's subconscious, right? But that's another topic for another day. Sometimes it's the people and situations we surround ourselves in, right? If you're in a certain job field that's very professional and very astute and buttoned up, you can't wear pink hair like you really want to or dress in unicorn colored clothes. You can't do that. You are not being your authentic self, and the spirit will always be dissatisfied. So whenever we're not operating as our true, authentic self, the spirit will remain dissatisfied. That's what you have to come to understand. So when you're finding yourself dissatisfied with something, uncomfortable with a certain thing, do what you can to get yourself to a better space, to evolve yourself to a space where you are more comfortable being authentic. Make sure you're putting yourself in rooms and environments and near people who inspire you to be your best self, who want you to be you authentically, not the version of you they've created in their head, okay? That's what we should be working towards, and that is definitely something we should be speaking about further, right? As I said, we have so many different conversations about so many different things. None of us are really getting to the deeper matter, right? I really can't say none of us. There are some of us who will delve into the deeper conversations, but for the most part, it's taboo, right? So, let's discuss mental health and spirituality on a deeper level, shall we? As some of you may know, mental health is often attributed to a chemical imbalance within the brain, okay? So, imbalances with your serotonin, which regulates your mood, sleep, and appetite, or a dopamine imbalance, which is the brain's reward system and kind of regulates that motivation and pleasure aspect, so to speak. This heavily affects depression. Or having an imbalance in your norepinephrine, which heavily affects your energy, your alertness, and your stress responses, right? Again, we definitely cannot downplay how these imbalances chemically can affect us mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally, right? So, as I mentioned, many of these illnesses can be looked at as symptoms of a bigger problem. I'm not suggesting that you minimize it. I'm actually suggesting that you look at the totality of the situation, look at it from a bigger picture. Where is this stemming from? Truly evaluate and look at what's causing you to have a bad mood, a dysregulated mood. What is causing your moods to fluctuate from a high happy standpoint to a low depressive standpoint? What are the triggering factors? What is the level of dissatisfaction that you're feeling and why? The best thing we can do for self is to learn self fully. And you can't do that unless you are radically honest with yourself, about yourself, and everything that goes into you. Look at everything that makes you you. Why do I have this certain mood? Why do I have this certain demeanor? Why do I walk this way? Why do I talk this way? Why do I think this way, believe this way, pray this way? Why do I think the ways that I think? Have you ever explored outside of the norm, quote unquote, the things that you have maybe been taught by family, friends, or society as a whole? We have to look further into what we believe to know to be true. We definitely need to be more aware of what we're believing and why, specifically when it comes to mind matters. As we know, mind over matter is something we've been taught since the beginning of time. It's all about perspective. So, what do your perspectives say about you? But you first have to understand where you got these certain perspectives. Were they given to you, or these things you actually believe? Now, y'all know if I don't do anything else, I'm going to look up a word and the etymology of what it all means. So, when we're talking about psychology and studying the mind, the root word psyche kept coming up. The word psyche in ancient Greece, where it originated from, meant originally breath. And if you know anything about the ancient philosophers, one of the things they kind of toggled over was what was the life giving force? Was it breath or water? So that's something to keep in mind. So, all the Aristotles and Socrates, yes, those philosophers were kind of going back and forth, debating whether breath was the life force energy or water. Okay. Anyway, eventually, the word psyche evolved to mean soul, mind, spirit, or conscious personality, or the animating life force. So, when we're speaking about the mind, psychology, the psyche overall, we are actually speaking about the spirit. Little do we know, right? This is why it's important to get to the root of things. Do your own research, do the knowledge, okay? You can't get this information without doing your own research. So definitely don't have to take my word for it. You can look it up yourself and come up with your own understanding and discernment of things, which I always suggest you do with any information, whether it's for me or anybody else. So, as I mentioned, I worked in the mental health field for a number of years. I'm not talking one or two either, okay? I'm not going to tell you how long because I don't want y'all doing the math on me, okay? But I've worked in the mental health field for a substantial amount of time. Not a licensed professional, but I've worked with that community over a long period of time. So I believe I'm a good person to advocate for the mental health community, spiritually speaking, that is. So, one of the things that I was always curious about within the mental health community and spirituality, you'll see how this ties in 2 seconds. I know you're all wondering is what is the difference between people who hear from God or claim to, right? So, what do I mean by that specifically? Well, if we were to go to any church on any given Sunday, you would find likely a deacon, a deaconess, pastor, preacher, priest, a prophetess, okay, saying that they heard from God. God told me XYZ. God delivered a word unto me to deliver to the masses, okay, whatever way they form it and say it. People widely accept clergy members, right, those who are anointed, ordained, if you will, to say those things, to hear from God, and we don't question it, and we don't question it at all. Now, when people who are not ordained, who are not clergy, who are not in the church begin to say that they heard from God, that often leads to a fun hospital trip. And why is that? Why is it that only certain people are allowed to hear from God and not others? Who taught you that? Where does this belief system come from? Also, the bigger question could be asked, can we all hear from God? Do we need this sort of middleman? Do we need the pastor, the preacher, the priest, the clergyman to speak to God for us on behalf of us to deliver messages? Or are we able to make that clear, conscious connection entirely on our own? This is one of the things that always troubled me about the mental health community. It's okay in certain situations and circumstances to hear from God, to talk to God. And then in other situations, it is looked at as concerning or frowned upon, right? You're hearing voices, you're delusional, you may be schizophrenic, right? Again, I'm not trying to take away from those diagnoses. What I am urging us to do is to look at the totality of the situation. What exactly are you hearing? Okay. And perhaps it would be best to talk to ordained people, clergy people, where the masses think it's okay for them to hear from God, to hear exactly what they're hearing. What do they hear other than what they are lecturing about in their sermon? Are they talking with God daily, right? And isn't it their duty as a spiritual leader or teacher to lead us all to create that authentic connection with God ourselves? Now, this is where we might split hairs and it gets a little controversial. So I'm going to suggest you buckle up, Buttercup. And if you're not already clutching those pearls, get ready to do so because this one is going to be a wild ride. So when I meditated on this topic, what I was given was Romans chapter 12, verse 6. We are all given different gifts according to our grace, right? So some of us are gifted the gift of prophesying. And if you have that gift of prophesying, it says right there in Romans to do it according to your faith. If you are called to teach, then teach. If you are called to lead, then do so dutifully, right? If you are called to give grace, then give grace. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing, right? But the overall message is do what you are called to do and do it dutifully. Do it gracefully. Do it because you know you can. Do it because you know that it is a gift from God at the end of the day. So all of us are given different gifts, different spiritual gifts as well. Now, y'all know I'm going to give you the definition. As I said, don't just trust anything that I say, do the research yourself. So, we directly heard about prophesying in scripture, but what is to prophesy? Prophesy is defined as to predict or declare something that will happen in the future, typically under divine inspiration or mystic knowledge. So, if you are someone with the ability to prophesy, to obtain this mystic knowledge, where are you getting it from? Are you given a golden tablet just dropped into your bedroom and you wait? No, you hear it. Okay, so some of us have the gift of prophesying. Some of us have the gift of teaching. Some of us have the natural gift and ability to lead masses and create social influence, right? Not these influencers today, actual influence. And what we have to understand is it is our duty to do so in a righteous way. It is our duty to operate within our gifts in a good way, in a way that leads others to light, in a way that leads others to be inspired to use and operate within their gifts. I'm gonna be the one to tell you, we all have a purpose. I tell you that time and time again. We have a purpose, but what many of us do not learn from our spiritual teachers and leaders is it is your purpose that provides the provision from God, right? So God gave you certain gifts, talents, strengths, and abilities, right? Some of it is prophesying. For some of us, that may be prophesying. For some of us, that may be teaching. For some of us, we're healers, okay, in the physical sense or the spiritual sense. Some of us are meant to coach and teach people and coach people into their highest potential to get to their purpose. We all have certain gifts for a reason. Imagine this like an escape room. And we all have different gifts, talents, and abilities to get us out of oppression, suppression, depression, mental illness, all those different things that hold us captive to our lower vibrational selves, addiction, right? We all have these different things we're capable of doing, and we're meant to bring those things together. Now imagine you are given a gift from God and you don't use it. or you use it in a negative way. So you have the ability to influence the masses. You have that certain je ne sais quoi, and you have the type of personality and energy that keeps people captivated and they listen to you. And instead of motivating them to positivity, you're on some spin that and doing things like that with your gifts. Okay, can you imagine how upset your father would be? Okay, so even if we don't take this, let's say the spiritual conversation is too much for you, right? Just think of your dad, your parent giving you a gift. And instead of you using it in a good way, you use it for negativity, right? You know a million ways to get money. You're a great visionary, right? But you use your visionary skills for negativity. You start a gang or you start a rap group that is condescending to women, that is preaching and praising genocide to young Black men. Well, how do you think God frowns upon that? How do you think your parent would look at that, right? So we have to be careful of what we're doing with these gifts as well. And also not judging others when they operate within their gifts, okay? Because if my gift is prophesying and you don't understand that, then you have no room, you have no spiritual jurisdiction over here. You cannot tell me how to operate within my gift of prophesying. Just as if you're a teacher and I don't know how to teach, I don't know all the components to teaching, I don't know what it is to come up with the different lesson plans and things like that, I then cannot or should not judge the way in which you teach, right? Because I don't know what ways you're called to teach in coaching, leading, those same different ways. As long as we're leading each other to positivity, then there's no problem. As long as you're leading people into positivity with your gifts, then there should be no judgment. The problem becomes, rightfully so, when we are leading people to their own destruction, using our gifts to our and other people's detriment. That's not what we were put here for, and we should definitely consider how we are affecting others within our gifts. So, with the gift of prophesying, clearly you'll have to hear that prophecy from somewhere to deliver to a certain crowd, right? Think about your favorite musicians, your favorite speakers, orators, they're channelers at the end of the day. Little do they know, right? Whether they know it or not, and they have the ability to tap in and to channel certain energies and vibrations and frequencies, okay? So, with that being said, think about now how many people are using their gift for positivity. How many musicians do you know using their gift towards positivity? And let's think about those musicians that have done so, led people to the light, and their global impact and how it is long lasting. So, as I mentioned in other episodes, people like Bob Marley, who is loved worldwide from every culture, every race, every background, ethnicity, age group. Everybody loves Bob Marley. One, the certain frequency that he was vibrating at, and number two, his message. He used his gifts for good and positivity to bring love into the universe, to bring love and togetherness and community amongst all people. There should be no hate, there should be no worries. We're all one, right? So there's another artist we should definitely discuss when it comes to spirituality and mental health. Jeezy, for instance. On the track Lose My Mind, he says, I'm hearing voices in my head. I think I'm schizophrenic. As you may know, schizophrenia is a diagnosis that includes auditory hallucinations, hearing things, seeing things that aren't there, right? So, what is the difference between auditory hallucinations and clairaudience? Some people have the gift of clairaudience. They can hear things on a different frequency. So, what is the difference between auditory hallucinations and clairaudience? Don't worry, I'll wait. Auditory hallucinations are basically defined as hearing things that other people don't hear. Well, we've already covered that with the scripture Romans 12:6. Some people have the gift to prophesy, and with that, you have to hear things that other people don't hear to deliver those messages. Now, don't let me lose you, okay? Again, not minimizing, let's look at the overall picture. Clairaudience is the ability to tap into different frequencies to hear spiritually. Again, we are all gifted different gifts, and this includes spiritual gifts. So you could have clairaudience where you can hear clearly, right? And with these spiritual gifts, we must understand that the ways in which you tap in and tune into different frequencies heavily revolves around what you are surrounding yourself with, what you are intaking on a physical level. You have to be mindful of what you're partaking in, what you're eating, drinking, what environments you surround yourself in, because you are someone who's open to different frequencies. So you must be mindful to not indulge in low vibrational things because you are constantly used as a channel. Another thing that's often attributed to schizophrenia is seeing things that are not there. So, what is the difference between visual hallucinations and clairvoyance? Don't worry, I'll wait. Some people have the gift of clairvoyancy. Some people are able to see clearly. Now, I know y'all seen That's So Raven. Y'all thought that was a joke or just a show. I keep telling y'all, the shows and movies that we watch are deeper than just things to watch. They know people have these different capabilities and they're showing you, they're putting it in music and movies and shows, and we keep minimizing it to something like we don't understand it. Why? Because we don't have a community conversation about it. In the northern states, it is weird and it is taboo to say you see spirits, you hear spirits. But you going down to the south and they will get you together and let you know that that is a gift. So what we must come to understand is we are often gifted with certain gifts, strengths, talents, and abilities that are spiritually inclined. I urge you to look into the different clairs. If you are someone who experiences this, I would love to hear from you. There are people who are self proclaimed seers who can see the deeper meaning in almost everything around them. They never have a dull moment. They are the type of people who you don't see what they see, even if you see it too. And that's just some to name a few. Many churches, as I mentioned, have a prophetess right on the board of members, and no one questions that any further. Now, for some, this could just be a spiritual or clerical title, if you will, but there are some people who are actual prophets and prophetesses, and they naturally will just spew things out of their mouth that so happen to come true later. Now, you could call it coincidence, but I don't believe in coincidences. I've seen it a number of times myself to know that that's not always the case. There are people who are prophetic dreamers and their dreams come true. But again, if you mention that in your therapist's office, you might find yourself on a prescription or two. And though I say it in jest, it's not funny. It's definitely something we need to take a deeper look into. It's my personal opinion. We have medicated some of the most beautiful, brilliant minds on the planet. Which leads me to my next point. During my course of study, when I was looking into spirituality and mental illnesses and how those two correlate, I very quickly stumbled upon John Nash. Now, you may remember his story from the movie A Beautiful Mind. Again, another movie showing you right in front of your face that these things occur. In the movie A Beautiful Mind, he's a very great mathematician. He's a genius. He's helping the FBI and the CIA. He feels like he's helping the world. He's on some secret mission to solve the world's problems through his mathematical analysis, right? A very brilliant mind. What we didn't get to see fully was his life outside of his diagnoses. In the movie, he is diagnosed as schizophrenic because he has these delusions that he is helping other people. He's helping the CIA, the FBI. He's helping the world. He's on some secret mission here on planet Earth to do these mathematical things to help the world. What we don't really get a good picture of is his life outside of his mental illness. John Nash was awarded so many different awards for his amazing mathematical works. He came up with some of the greatest theories that we still use to this day. So what we cannot deny is he was on a mission on the planet here to affect the planet greatly by his ability to not only solve difficult mathematical equations, but then how to apply that to real life circumstances. He's definitely an interesting person to study beyond his mathematical life, beyond his diagnoses. Upon studying him further, he's written several books regarding the spirit, spirituality, awakenings, and our soul gifts, and coming into our purpose. That is the great mission we're on here in life, to find your purpose and live it out. That's the great purpose on earth, and he found it. He didn't just succumb to his diagnoses. He understood one fact. One, that he was very, very, very misunderstood. And two, that he knew what he was here to do. He understood his mission, his purpose on earth was tied to his mathematical equations, tied to his innate ability to make those connections and correlations, his immense pattern recognition skills, and his ability to effectively learn those things, kind of digest it, compute it in a way, and put it out to the masses for us to understand in a more logical way. If he tried to explain to us everything in a mathematical sense, we probably wouldn't get it. But he had the innate ability to kind of translate it in a way for us all to understand. What he understood is we all have a secret mission here on life. It's our purpose. We're all looking around, running around. What is the meaning of life? What is the purpose of my life? What am I doing here? Have you ever stopped to ask yourself? Have you ever leaned into your gifts, talents, and abilities far enough to explore what that purpose could be? The purpose of life is simple. It's to find your purpose and to live in that purpose so that you can be provided your provision, but also so that you can be a light for others to find their purpose, to get to their provision. We are supposed to create heaven on earth. You are supposed to create a life you love. You're supposed to be living in abundance. You're supposed to be living as your highest self, in your highest form, out of your highest potentials, out of your greatest abilities. And you do that utilizing the gifts that God gave you. So, as mentioned in Romans chapter 12, verse 6, do what you're called to do. If it's prophesy, then prophesy. If it's teach, then teach. If it's to lead, then lead. If it's to be an advocate for those who cannot advocate for themselves, please do that. But whatever it is you do it with love. If you're called to paint, do that and paint so with inspiration and love so that it inspires others who may be like you to paint more bigger, better, and beautifully. If you're called to write, write with love, write with care, write with purpose, write knowing that you were called to do so. Whatever it is that you're called to do that. If you're called to speak, speak to people with love. Speak life into people. Speak love into people, into situations. Remember, as I mentioned, everything we say is literally casting a spell, right? We have the power of life and death in the tongue. So use your words wisely. Use your words to create the life that you want. Use your words to inspire others. Use your words to get more people to operate as their highest selves, just as I'm doing here today. I encourage you all to look for your purpose. If you're having trouble figuring out what that is, definitely go within. What I can say is this: follow your heart, Follow where your gifts and your abilities and your strengths take you. Go within, pray about it, meditate on it, sit with the universe about it. You could talk to God, Ra, Allah, Buddha, whoever it is that you feel most aligned to. Remember, life is simply a spiritual journey at the end of the day, and Earth, let's just consider that spiritual school. Class is always in session. We are meant to learn and grow from one another so we can continue leveling up, graduating, and going to the next level until you get to the highest level. And remember, the calling on your life is yours alone. It's not meant for anyone else to understand. There's a reason why it wasn't a group call. And anyone who doesn't like it or understand it, tell them they should try calling God and see if He'll return their voicemail regarding the calling on your life. So if you don't take anything else from me or this episode, understand this, that one, we all have a purpose and a true calling on our life. We all have a secret mission that we're here for, and we're meant to get to that. How you do that is through your natural strengths, talents, and abilities. What are you naturally good at? What are you naturally inspired by? What are you passionate about? What can you do so easily, unlike other people? That's where you start. If you're a natural singer, then sing. There's a reason why most of the planet cannot sing. Your calling is singing, but do so with love. If you can write, speak, draw, paint, drive, lead, whatever you're called to do that, but do it dutifully. Do it understanding that it's for a bigger purpose. Please understand that there are people who are waiting for you to get into your purpose, to do what you're called to do, because somehow or another it's directly tied to them and their purpose. They're waiting for that leader. They're waiting for that teacher. They're waiting for your instruction, your leadership, or for you to just be a guiding light in this thing called life. Sometimes the journey doesn't look like what we intended it to. Sometimes we can fall to the ills of the world and society. Sometimes we succumb to our own thought patterns, beliefs, setbacks, and limitations. What you must come to understand is this: you are the only thing standing in your way. You have an unlimited amount of potential that is waiting for you to tap into it. So, yes, embrace those spiritual gifts, embrace that inner calling. So, yes, embrace your gifts, embrace your spiritual gifts, embrace your spiritual nature. Once you understand that fear is the only thing holding you back, and you just have to overcome that fear. Now, I know it's easier said than done, but just do it, okay? Sometimes you got to create your own wave and get yourself out there and push yourself to the next level. You won't always have people in your corner to help inspire you or push you to do it. You have to be dedicated to your purpose no matter what. You mustn't allow fear to be a limitation for us. So overcome your fears, do what you're called to do, and do it knowing that you are serving a greater good. Understand that you literally make the world a better place by operating in your purpose, by being your most highest vibrational self, by operating out of your highest frequency. I will always tell you guys, the more people we have operating in love and light, in their highest version of self, being happy, fruitful, and multiplying, the better the world is. We heal the world by healing self. It might sound like a tall task, but all you have to do is your individual work, your individual soul work. Ensure that you are spiritually where you are called to be. So since we're not doing anything else better with ourselves, let's heal the world one person at a time. Heal yourself. That's how we heal humanity. That is the message for today, family. I hope you've taken something from this that can aid you along your journey as well. Remember, you should continue to come and go in love and light. Please pursue your purpose, as your purpose provides provision, okay? And you definitely want to do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And until next time, peace, y'all.